Welcome back to State of the Nation. Labour's class warfare is back on the agenda, and the consequences will damage your wealth. It's easy to attack rich people, and the idea of taxing millionaires sounds appealing. But the truth is, we need these rich individuals to stay in the United Kingdom. They don't just sit on piles of money. They invest in businesses, create jobs, and drive economic growth. When they leave, it's not only their tax revenue that goes with them, it's the jobs, the innovation and the investment. And they will leave if we make it harder for them to stay, make it less profitable for them to stay. We've already had a taste of what is to come if we carry on down this path. Recent analysis shows that the share of millionaires in the UK is set to fall by 20% over the next 5 years. Countries like Germany and France, and indeed even Italy, are set to gain millionaires while Britain is losing them. Why? Because our tax system is becoming increasingly hostile to wealth creators. People are preparing to pack their bags, and they're not just worried about income or inheritance tax. It's the non-refundable VAT. It's the proposed exit taxes. Rich people don't need to stay here. Many of them are mobile, and they will leave if taxes are too high. They can live anywhere they please, and many are already leaving for fear of what will be in the budget. While I was in government, I argued for return to the non-dom rules as they were when Gordon Brown was Prime Minister, before all the tinkering, the changes that began to frighten them away. Tax, after all, is about getting the most number of feathers from the goose with the least amount of hissing. It's about practicality, not morality. It's not about punishing people for being successful. It's making sure that the system works for everybody, that you have the most economically advantageous, the wisest tax system. And if these non-dom policies push more people to leave, we'll have less money in the economy, which means less money for public services, and the least well-off suffer the most. That is what socialist class war, economics leads to, as the late, great Margaret Thatcher once put it.
Rather the poor were poorer, provided the rich were less rich. That way you will never create the wealth for better social services as we have.
And that's absolutely right. The left would prefer that the poor are poorer as long as the rich were less rich. It's utter madness, and the rich already pay a disproportionate share of tax. The top 1% of earners contribute nearly 30% of all income tax, while in 1979, when the top tax rate was 98%, they paid 6% of all tax. Their departure isn't just a minor inconvenience, it's a massive hit to the exchequer and the economy. Some economists are already calling for an exit tax, which is encouraging people to pack their bags already. But forcing people to pay capital gains tax on unrealised assets as they leave isn't going to make them stay. It's only get them out of the door faster. This isn't just about numbers on a spreadsheet. It's about the future of the British economy. We need to be keeping the best and the brightest talent from around the world, not driving away even our own citizens. The government needs to rethink this policy before it's too late. Because once they're gone, it's much harder to get them back. They are gone. And we will be left with a weaker economy, less money for the very public services the Labour Party says it wants to protect. And the poorest in our country will become poorer still. As ever, send in the mail, Moggs. Well, one such wealth creator who has decided to take his riches elsewhere is the very well-known founder of Pimlico Plumbers, Charlie Mullins. Charlie, thank you very much for joining me.
Yeah.
Are you still just about in the UK, or have you already fled to lower tax pastures?
Yeah, I wouldn't use the word fled, but I've left purely because of Labour's taxes and the increases they're going to bring out in the future, inheritance tax, capital gains, raise the tax rate. And, you know, they're penalising the wrong people. So it's the entrepreneurs, the risk takers, the business people that create wealth, that create jobs, that, you know, put more into the economy, but they're driving them out. And if they do this leaving tax, there's no way possible will people ever return. It's like you're in a restaurant, you've already paid the bill, but because you leave before it closes, they want to charge you again. It's honestly, Labour is a crazy idea, and it would drive more and more millionaires. I believe more millionaires are going to leave the UK than any other country in the next few years. And already 10,000 are going to be leaving this year. So the Labour needs to relook at it and come up with another idea to raise money rather than penalising wealthy or successful people. They despise wealthy people, as you know.
Well, they actually say they want to grow the economy, but surely the best way to grow the economy is to keep your wealth creators in the country rather than push them out.
Well, anybody with half a brain can work that one out, but for some reason, they don't seem to. They obviously must understand what they're doing, but, they've always despised wealthy people. They're socialists, and they need to just change their plan, or they're going to bankrupt the UK very quickly. We need to be giving incentives to people to stay, not penalise them to leave and raising taxes. I've gone to Spain, as you know, and I won't be coming back. I will not be coming back when Labour are in power and with their stupid, idiotic tax laws. None of them have got a day's work in between them. We're just going from bad to worse, and somebody needs to speak up and put a stop to these idiots, if I'm being honest. Sorry for being rude, but that's what they are.
No, that's all right. But Charlie, do you feel this is patriotic? Don't you feel you should stay in the UK and you should fight the good fight and you should, excuse me, help the Conservatives or Reform to win an election so we get a low-tax economy that you would like?
Well, that's a simple answer, no. I've been paying into the system for 55 years. I put over £200 million in tax and national insurance, and people start telling me I'm not patriotic. I cannot do no more than what I've done. They're driving us out. They're forcing us out. It's an hard decision to leave the UK. So should I be staying and fighting? The answer is no, because we're on a losing battle unless more people like me are prepared to stand up and tell them that they've got it wrong. It's a crazy idea. So no, I don't. I wish I wasn't leaving. I wish I was contributing more. I've got a new company in the UK which is family run. We Fix, and I'm not on the payroll, but they're compliant with all the UK tax laws. But if they make it too difficult for the company, they'll just move to Dubai, like many other people.
Are a lot of your friends also leaving? Are you part of a trend that you're noticing of wealthy people who are leaving the UK at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, Alfie Best has gone. I mean, billionaire, he's gone. He's had enough of it because of the same thing, because of the stupidity of what the Labour are trying to penalise successful people. And, I know it's not about all the illegals, but they're giving out money to people that don't contribute nothing to society. It's so wrong. I mean, they will break the UK, and then hopefully another whatever you call it will get in. I can't remember what you are. Like another party will get in. Sorry, and we'll have to straighten it out again. I mean, they will destroy the UK. They've only been in 3 or 4 months, and look at the damage they've done already.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Charlie. Thank you for joining us. And I hope you'll use your 90 days to come back to the UK and cheer everybody up from time to time. But I'm joined now by the Director of Research at the Adam Smith Institute, Maxwell Marley. Maxwell, the truth is, the government needs money, that we are spending too much, we are at over 100% debt to GDP. The rich seem an easy target for any government, and particularly for Rachel Reeves when she's short of cash.
I think you're completely correct here, Jacob. Look, here's the issue, right? I mean, we have taxes at an all-time high. The Adam Smith Institute does Tax Freedom Day every year. This year, the average taxpayer in the UK worked for 161 days for the Treasury and not for themselves. And when we look at the rich, the entrepreneurs, the founders, the innovators, people who are taking really large risks, they are getting taxed to the hilt. And you mentioned earlier, the top 1% pay about 30% of income tax. Well, actually, if you take the number of millionaires in the UK, about 4.62% of the entire population, that's about the 5% of the overall taxpayers. They pay 50% of income tax. So they are easy to go for, really simple. However, you're scaring them off, and that's what our research today is showing. But most of the 4.6% of millionaires can't go because they own a house in Surrey and it's worth £1 million and they don't have the flexibility. So of that 4.6%, any relatively small number have the freedom, the flexibility to disappear? Well, we'd call those people who can move around, the highly mobile, wealthy individuals. They're called liquid millionaires. So they've got about £1 million or $1 million, as the international term is, of easily accessible, investable income. So that could be cash, that could be assets in a fund or shares, whatever else. They can move very easily. So a study by New World Wealth and Henley Partners forecast for this year 9,500 of them leaving, which is second only to China. But we have taken a look at a lot of these numbers and taken into general account the total millionaires, including those people with houses and other assets they can't move around. We think by 2028 you'll see a 20% reduction in the overall number of millionaires in the UK. And of those liquid millionaires, how many of them
are foreign and how many of them are British? Do you have the figures on that?
Well, unfortunately, it's quite hard to get a hold of. We take a lot of time looking at HMRC and Treasury data over this stuff. You can't dig in and find out who is who. But what we can say is that the non-dom regime, which is, going to be totally upended, we assume so. There's a lot of uncertainty, as you know, Jacob, and as viewers at home will know. The issue we've got here is that now we're seeing, and as Charlie was saying, people just flee. And there is no obligation, as you were saying, to go. And I'm very, very concerned about this, as a lot of the wealth creators around the UK.
And uncertainty is bad for tax collection.
Absolutely.
Because when I was speaking to somebody the other day who, a member of his family, had left because he'd heard about the exit tax. Mm-hmm. And if you hear an exit tax is coming in 3 weeks, you leave today, don't you? You don't wait until it's come in. Absolutely.
And there are 2 points to that as well. Now, you could bring in an exit tax, and lots of countries have them. The problem is, and we've seen the Send tax thing today come in and say, suggesting this great idea. The problem is it's a deterrent to people moving to the UK. If they want to start a company here, they want to use the English legal system, access our fantastic financial services in the city, or access our fantastic workforce. People won't want to come in and start up businesses.
But isn't that why they should pay the tax and lump it? The fantastic workforce, the legal system, the English language, even the time zone, even the fact the sun always shines in Somerset, that they have wonderful opportunities being in the United Kingdom. It's a great place to do business. The quid pro quo is it's slightly higher tax than France or Germany, which are not wonderful places to do business.
And yet people are moving out anyway, Jacob. This is the big concern. Now, look at Italy, right? We never saw Italy as this kind of, they've got about a quarter of the millionaires we do. We look at the data. However, we're seeing more and more people go to Italy because it's really easy to move there with their tax jurisdiction. You pay 200,000 euros and you're a non-dom, and that's fine. Whereas you must jump through all these different loopholes in the UK. It scares people. It's complicated, and as you said, it's uncertain.
But isn't there a fairness argument that people on PAYE have no choice? They've got to pay their tax. It gets taken out of their salary every month. They have to pay the VAT. They can't avoid it, and the petrol duty. And they see these non-doms, these rich, fat cats getting the cream and not paying any tax or paying a lower tax rate than they are. That's really infuriating, isn't it, to British citizens?
Absolutely, of course it's infuriating. I'm on PAYE, I can't just jump around the world, but the way I look at this is you can either live in the real world or you can live in, essentially, and by what I mean by that is, we can do this tax policy and they can leave. And as you said, they'll take their investments with them, they'll take jobs, they'll take the ideas with them. And let's not forget, this is a knowledge economy. We need those people to stay and we need to incentivise them to come here.
One final thought. It's no surprise to me as a Conservative that this is what Rachel Reeves is trying to do. She's a socialist. That's what socialists do. What on earth was going on with Conservative governments doing this? This seems so fundamentally antithetic to Conservative principles.
Well, looking back to the spring budget, I think it was political. It was to shoot the fox. Essentially, Labour said they were going to do that for a long time. And as we know, the former Prime Minister's wife, Rishi Sunak's wife, is a non-dom. And it was a big point for the media. And I think that was what was really driving that policy to come forward and shoot the fox. But here we are, just like with the smoking ban, for example, it's going to get made much worse.
If you try shooting foxes, you end up shooting yourself in the foot. Thank you very much to Maxwell.